All right. Hey, everybody. Looking forward to a great show. Enjoy this one. All right, here we go. Hey, everyone. You're listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat, and I am your host, Jay Scherr, and I am super excited. I have got a fantastic guest in the studio with me today. My guest is a proud mom of two boys and one stepdaughter. She's originally from Springfield, Illinois, spent most of her adult life in the Chicago area, and has made Palm Coast her home since 2011. When she's not working, which my gosh, I don't know how she finds time when she's not, but when she's not, you'll likely find her reading, doing competitive croquet, gardening, and spending time with her five grandkids. Please welcome the amazing Nancy Crouch. Nancy, it is so great to see you. Thank you for
Thank you,
being here
Jay. Good
today.
morning.
Good morning. It is wonderful to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, let me ask you a question to kick things off. When I had asked you to be on today's show, what was the first thing that came to mind?
I don't like talking about myself.
Oh, okay. Why?
Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm an introvert at heart. I don't know.
Mm,
I do like to talk about things I'm involved in,
sure.
and things that I am proud of that
Hmm.
I'm involved in.
Hmm.
But talking about myself is like, I don't know, maybe I'm boring.
Well, it's funny, and I'm just going to be fully transparent here. So when I did ask Nancy to be on the show and we were texting back and forth, one of the first things that you said back to me was, "Well, are you sure? I'm so boring." And I'm thinking to myself, I'm around you, not all the time, but I'm around you enough to realize that you are so far from boring. And really, the purpose of our conversation today is to get to know the person behind all the incredible things that you do. And I know that there's a lot there. So let's start here. I
Okay.
would love it if you would share with all of us one of the hardest things that you have ever done. One of the hardest things that you've ever done that really pushed you, Nancy, beyond the edges of your comfort zone. So, one of the hardest things, and then I've got a follow up question to that.
Well, one of the hardest challenges of my life,
Absolutely.
surviving three cancer diagnoses
Tell me more.
since 1920. So it kind of made me realize, to live every day, make every day a profitable day.
Hmm.
And I don't mean that in the monetary sense. I mean that in like, today's a great day. What am I going to do tomorrow to make it even better? And I think that's probably why I get involved in so many things because I try to make things better. If I see a niche, I think, oh, I can help do that. So those have been, severe challenges in my life. I lost my husband 4 years ago. That was kind of devastating,
What
you
was your
know,
husband's first name?
Bob.
Bob.
Hmm.
And when Bob passed, what was happening in your life at that time prior to his passing? Kind of where were you in life? What were you experiencing? What was going on?
Well, getting out of COVID, we were trying to getting out of COVID a bit.
Hmm.
And in fact, his brother passed away during COVID and he couldn't go to the funeral. So a lot of these things, and my brother-in-law died 8 days after my husband died. So it was like a crazy time, you know. So I just kind of like sat back and just, did nothing for a little bit, just
Yeah.
kind of regrouped. And, I had, you know, uh, kids that, were dealing with losing their father, so it was a hard time.
So, when you were first mentioning about surviving three cancer diagnoses, you had mentioned since you said 1920, and I
Oh,
know
I
you
did.
I know you
No, no.
didn't mean 1920
I did? Oh,
because
okay.
you're a young chicken. So
2002 was my first diagnosis.
2002.
And then
Okay.
the second one came 2022 when I was
2022.
here.
Okay.
And then during that time, there was a melanoma diagnosis. So in between there. So, um, yeah. So,
So tell me how, you mentioned about, being so involved in things, and that maybe one of the reasons behind that is so much of the pain that you've experienced and the challenges that you've faced. How do you maintain today? How do you maintain such a positive outlook on life? What are some of the things that you do to be able to maintain that positive outlook? Because for many people it doesn't necessarily come naturally, right? There's things that we do every day to help
I
us
know,
build that
true.
muscle.
And I know it sounds kind of cliche, but I try to be positive and not negative. I try to ignore the noise. And by ignoring the noise, I can focus on the things that I want to get through.
Hmm.
I try not to be afraid to fail.
Okay.
Um, I mean, that's important, I think, for people is don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to try things. Don't be afraid to get involved. Don't be afraid to fail. I try to say that to my kids too. If you're interested in something, go for it. Don't be afraid of it. So what if you fail?
Yeah,
You'll never know if you don't try, right? So,
absolutely.
hmm
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing part of that journey with all of us. I think that helps give us some context around, you know, who you are and some of the things that you've experienced that allow you to show up the type of person who you are today. Because when I look at you, when I think about you, when I'm around you, you put out a very strong energy. You're just a very confident, empowering person, and you're such a gift
oh,
to all of us. And so I just wanted to share that
thank you,
with you
Jay.
first and
Yeah,
foremost.
just like passion needs to be stronger than your fear. I think
Yeah, absolutely.
so. When I'm passionate about something, I just try to put away that fear. Again, that
Yeah,
fear of failing.
yeah.
So,
So let's wind the clock back a bit. When we were talking offline before we started to record, we were talking a little bit about family, and you came from a relatively large family. So share with us a little bit about your upbringing, and what I'd love to find out from you is growing up. First of all, kind of share with us a little bit about what kind of kid you were.
a tomboy.
A top?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, I was a tomboy.
Wow.
I'm one of seven children, and
Okay.
I was sandwiched between two older boys and two younger boys.
Okay.
So, I had two older sisters that were like 10 years older than me. I didn't really get to know my sisters as well as the brothers because we were all kind of the same age. And I got to know my brother's friends. And so I got to play football and baseball. And, I played with them, and I was just as good as they were. You know. And my older sisters and I are like best friends now.
Really? Wow.
We talk every day.
Yeah.
And so we are like really, and we have been for a long time, but, growing up, one got married when I was 8, so, and you know, yeah, I was a tomboy, In fact, from there, I became very a competitive softball player in the city
Okay.
and a competitive volleyball player. You wouldn't think that. I'm only 5'4", but
But you were. You let nothing stop you. That's
so
outstanding.
yeah, so yeah, I was very much into softball at the time.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about mom and dad.
Mom and dad. My dad was a state worker and a farmer. When I was 12, he came home to my mom and said, "Now get a load of this. How would you like if your spouse did this?" Came home to my mom and said, "I bought a farm. We're moving."
My gosh.
you
Had he
know,
had farming anywhere in
no,
his? No.
no.
Okay.
But he always wanted to have a farm. He wanted to raise hogs, and he wanted to, so he bought like this small farm of 25 acres, and he grew it to 80 acres out in the north part of Springfield. It's still in Springfield city limits, but the north end. So I got to grow up with horses and farm life, and we lived on a big river, so we fished all the time.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, so it was fun. I had a lot of people come over. They always wanted to come over to the farm. to play and ride the horses, and so yeah, we had fun.
That's wild.
I wish, kind of wish I had appreciated it more at the time. But when you're a 12-year-old girl, soon to be a teenager,
Hmm.
you want to hang out with your friend more.
Sure.
And so I wish I would appreciated it more.
Tell me about your mom.
My mom was a lovely woman. She, I don't know how, becoming a mother myself, I honestly do not know how she raised 7 children.
Mm.
I do not. And all of us turned out good.
Way to go, mom
No
and
one's in
dad.
prison, no one, yeah, all of us turned out good and have good, healthy families. Yeah. And she was a good cook, and she came from a Scottish ancestry. My grandmother from Scotland lived with us for many years.
Really?
Hmm. So there were always, oftentimes, 10 people around the table. And again, I don't know how my mom did it, because my dad was of the ilk where he liked a 5-course meal every night for dinner,
Mm.
and doing that for 9, 10 people every night.
Wow.
But and I remember my mom making lunches in the morning where the kids always liked to have their favorite things. So she would put these brown paper bags out with our names on them. Someone would have egg salad, someone would have peanut butter and jelly. I'm like, how did you do that?
That's
You
amazing.
know? And so,
So did the family, did the kids help out when it came to meals and
yeah, we
just
had our
all the
chores. We
things?
had our chores.
Okay.
We had to take turns doing dishes, and and we'd always fight over who was washing, who was drying, because whoever dried had to put away.
Okay.
And that was like no one wanted to do that. Washers got done first.
Yeah, I can understand that. What was one of the most valuable lessons that you learned from your mom? And then I'd love to hear the same thing about your dad. So something specific that she either shared with you or that you just learned from watching her that you still think about today.
Um, well, my mom was very supportive, especially of me, looking back. Um, and she calls me her miracle child, only
Why?
because I went through so many things in my adult life,
Okay.
my medical history
Yeah.
challenges, and I got hit by a car when I was in Chicago. I forgot, I failed to mention that part.
Hmm.
Almost died,
Wow.
you know, um, and yeah. So she's always like, "You always surpass. You always come out of things better than when before." And I was kind of like always reflected on that, like, what do you mean by that?
Mm.
But yeah, so yeah, she always calls me her miracle baby. And my dad, he was just hardworking. He'd work all day, come home and work on the farm, and I would always try to help. You know, my brother and I felt like Huckleberry Finn sometimes, because we had these long white fences that had to be painted. Like, I swear, every summer we'd have to be out there.
And you're fishing,
And we're
right?
fishing,
Fishing and painting.
painting these fences, and we'd like be on each side of the fence throwing paint at each other, and it was like, it took us a lot longer than it really should have to paint those fences, but I remember those days.
So what was one of the craziest things that you did as a kid? So growing up with your brothers and your sisters as well. What was, as you kind of think back, one of those crazy life stories that you just can't believe that you did? Now that you look back, you
Well,
can't
here's
believe
a
you did
crazy
that.
life story that no one ever believes except for the people who actually saw it.
Okay.
My brothers and I were messing around at the river down by the dock area, and my dad had just brought in a stringer full of fish, and it was like next to the dock, and so I picked it up and I was counting the fish, and I dropped it, and it's like loosened. It just like left. I mean, it was gone. The whole stringer of fish. There were probably about 6 or 8 fish on there,
Oh no.
and I was like, oh my gosh! So we ran down to, probably a block and a half away was the sandbar area,
Okay.
and we were like fishing from there, and I caught that stringer of fish unknowingly. I actually, is that crazy or what? No one believes it except for the
Really?
people. Yeah, honest to God, you know. And so
That's pretty
I was
wild.
suddenly went from like, from being like, oh my God, you little creep, to, oh my God, you're the hero. I caught that stringer of fish again.
That's incredible. That is a wild story.
It is a wild story. No one believes me except for those who were there.
That is
My
so
brothers.
good.
They're like, how'd you do that?
So why don't you share with us one or two words that you would use to describe yourself? Just one or two.
Oh, Jay. Um,
What's the
um,
first thing that comes to mind?
I'm committed,
Committed. Okay.
hmm
Anything
and
else?
I'm passionate.
Yeah, that
And
you are.
they might be synonymous. I'm not sure, but
Well, I can tell you that those are very true to who you are when I think about you, committed and
hmm
passionate. Everything that I see you doing, you go all in. You're fully committed to the thing that you're doing,
hmm
at least the things that I'm involved in, that you're also
hmm
involved in. And your level of passion is absolutely on fire. And just knowing from personal experience, it is that passion that draws others in, that draws others to you
hmm
and to the initiatives that you're working on. So, two great words. I appreciate you sharing that. So, we're going to hit pause on
Okay.
our conversation here for a couple of moments because we are going to take a break to thank our amazing sponsors. My friends, you are listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat. Don't you go anywhere. We will be right back. All right. You doing okay?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
fine.
All right. Great. All right. You're doing well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Mark, how we doing over there? You okay? All right. Let's see here. Okay. All right. All right. We ready to jump back in? You good?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Here we go. All right, we're back. And again, you're listening to Business Minds Coffee Chat, and I am in the studio today with my very special guest, Nancy Crouch. We are having a great conversation, learning a lot more about Nancy's backstory, some of the challenges that she's faced, how she has really become the amazing person who she is today. And we're going to continue that conversation right now. So, Nancy, I wanted to kind of find out one thing, which you were talking about your husband Bob, who passed away. How did you and Bob meet?
Boy, we met in Springfield uh, at a bar, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
My friend was interested in the guy he was with.
Okay. Okay.
And so we ended up chatting, and and it happened to be over the 4th of July, and so we ended up going to the lake to watch the fireworks, and just kind of started seeing each other from there.
Now, for you, was it one of those things where it was like, wow, love at first sight? Same for him, or did it take time
No, I
for
think
it
we
to
became
develop?
friends first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we became friends and realized we had a lot in common, and
Yeah.
had ambitions, and so yeah.
And when you think about Bob today, what is what are some of the fondest memories that come up? What do you see when when he's
Well, he was
top of mind
funny.
for
He
you?
was
He's
funny.
funny.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was funny.
Yeah.
And
Like dry funny or super haha,
both,
both?
both.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
kind of unusual, but yes, both.
Interesting.
and and he always said what he felt. You know,
Did he have
he
a social filter or did he just
sometimes, but he like if you asked him his opinion on something, he would give it to you.
okay.
You know, and so everybody always knew.
Yeah.
Exactly how he stood on things.
Okay.
So.
All right. Speaking of your kids here for a moment, is there anything that you wouldn't talk to them about?
Wouldn't talk to them about. Um, Probably their career choices.
Mm,
I probably wouldn't talk to them about it.
okay.
I always like them to figure it out for themselves.
Okay.
One figured it out earlier than the other. If they ask me, I'd be happy to share my opinion. But I think people need to find their own direction, and If they ask me, I offer my opinion, but I kind of let them feel their own notes there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Good for you.
Hmm.
That's interesting. You are and I mentioned this at the top of the show, you are a competitive uh, croquet
I am.
player.
I am.
Am I saying that the right way?
Yeah, it's croquet.
Okay.
Hmm.
So when I was a kid, I had one of those croquet sets with
Hmm.
the little wire things, you put in the grass, and I played around with my two sisters. But being a competitive player, share with us just a little bit about what that experience is like, because you travel and you're soon to be traveling internationally for this, and you
Yes.
are a top ranked croquet player. Tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about that.
for women, I'm ranked one of the top 10, um, probably the top 25 among men. It is one of the only sports, one of the few sports, I shan't say only, one of the few sports that men and women compete against each other.
Together
They
on.
can compete together as doubles or they compete against each other
Okay.
because it doesn't matter, you know. But there are some women's international tournaments too that I have participated in.
Okay.
But normally most tournament play is men and women together.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
When did you first get involved in that, and
uh,
how?
well, when we moved to Grand Haven, where I live,
Hmm.
we saw some people out there, playing, and we're like, oh, let's get, learn more about that. So we were at the local village center
Okay.
restaurant there, and we happened to be there one night where they all came in after dinner, and they got us hooked, and so we went and learned some lessons and took off from there. I
But
mean,
you
it's a
had
great
never
sport.
played before.
Never. And
So,
the backyard croquet, interesting you should bring that up because I've been working with the United States Croquet Association out of West Palm Beach. And the end of this month, Palm Coast is hosting the nine wicket national tournament here in Palm Coast. Now, the nine wicket is the backyard croquet,
it is. Okay.
you know, um, and it's also often called long grass croquet
Okay.
because it's not played on the groomed courts that I compete with. I compete on really groomed courts that are like greens, like golf greens, where it's really fast
Yeah.
and there are different balls um, and that's called six wicket. And then there's golf croquet. Golf croquet is like played internationally, and so so golf croquet and six wicket are the two main sports I compete in. I do
Wow.
compete in the nine wicket. I played in the nationals last year, and we'll play again this year. But I'm really happy that I'm working with the city on bringing that here because they don't have to groom the courts. They can just put the hoops out, cut the grass to a certain level, but they don't have to groom them.
And that's going to be held
That's
where?
going to be held at Indian Trail Sports Complex
Okay.
the end of May,
Okay.
and I think May 29th through the June 1st or 27th through the 1st. But we have people from all over the country coming. There
That's
are
so
people
cool.
coming from Colorado, from New York, West Palm, Kentucky, Virginia. Um, and these are top players. And you wouldn't think that nine wicket is still a popular sport, but it is. It's recognized by the USCA, and so we're going to have at least 20 people playing, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah, you got
That
to come
sounds
out and
really cool.
watch. It's at the Indian Trail Sports Complex, and let that Thursday through Sunday, the end of the month.
End of the month. I'll
Uh-huh.
be
And
looking
there'll
out
be a
for
couple
that.
clinics that we're offering to the community
Okay.
Monday and Tuesday during that week, and just to see if they want to be involved and come out and play because there's an introductory flight. They can play.
I
It'll be
love that.
fun.
That's
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah.
All right. So you were with the Art Institute of Chicago for nearly 30 years.
Nearly 30
What
years.
was your
I feel like
what
I
was your
grew
role
up
there?
there.
I bet you did. What was
You
your
know.
role there?
Um.
Or maybe it changed over the years, but
Well, to immerse myself in art history, and I grew to appreciate the commitment and dedication of artists.
Mhm.
If you're an artist, I mean, that's what you are. I mean, sometimes you have to get a job to support yourself, but you're an artist.
Mhm.
Your wife probably understands that.
Yeah.
So, what they give up in their life to be complete as an artist was really compelling to me. Really. Talk about passion. Artists have passion,
That
for
is
their,
for
yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
For sure. So when you left the Art Institute first, was that a difficult decision for you? Had you felt at that stage in life that you had done what you wanted to and you were ready for a change? What
Yeah,
what was happening with
I
you?
was ready for a change. My husband had retired from the phone company AT&T,
Okay.
um, and we'd kind of always had this thought that we would move to Florida, or because that seemed to be where we vacationed mostly.
Hmm.
And so I think I got off the train one February day, what must have been like minus 30 below or something. And I probably had 3 inch thick ice on my windshield. And I came home. I said, all right, put the house up on the market. We're moving. Because we had already bought a house down here. And we thought we might do the, snowbird thing.
Yeah.
It just wasn't working. I mean, I just, when we were here, all we seemed to be doing was working on the house or doing
Hmm.
projects and stuff and not really being able to enjoy it too much. And then we go home and I never felt part of anything anymore.
So you mentioned that you would vacation to Florida.
Hmm.
How, why Palm Coast? How did Palm Coast hit the
That's
radar?
an interesting story, too. My friends up where we lived in Chicago were from Jacksonville.
Hmm.
And we had been friends ever since our kids were like in school together. We had the same age kids, and we got to know each other. We were room moms together, and suddenly, I saw her one day. She goes, "They bought a house in Florida," and I go, "Oh, really?" We just started looking, and we started looking like in the Miami area. And as we moved up the coast, and she said, "Check out Palm Coast, and then check out Grand Haven." So my husband flew down, looked at a few places, and then looked at Grand Haven, and said, "Oh, I only want to live here. They have so much to offer and everything." So then that's where we ended up. And then she was living here, we were living here, and then crazy.
That's a wild story. It's always interesting to find
I
out when
know,
you talk to people how
I
did you
know.
end up here?
Yeah, somebody told us about it.
So if you had the magic wand and could change one thing, one or two things about Palm Coast, what would it be?
I would have to say, and I'm working on that, is increasing the arts and culture in the community.
So today, when you look around this area and this community, you feel that that is lacking.
I do. I think we've come a long way,
Hmm.
but I do think there's so much more to do. There has to be an investment in the community. And I think we have a lot of organizations that are committed to doing just that, but we need investment by the municipalities.
Fair enough. Well, we have a lot of listeners of this show who are not only those involved in the community, but also those that are in leadership positions within the community. So I know that your words are resonating deeply with many,
I hope
many
so.
people right now. Oh, I know it. And I do want to mention that, certainly one of the ways that you impact and draw more focus to arts and history and culture in this community is through chairing the Flagler County Cultural Council FC3, which
Hmm.
you as are the chair of that organization and doing great work. And again, your passion and your commitment make a huge difference there. So Nancy, as we are wrapping up our conversation today, I would love it if you would give all of us, including me, one challenge. What is one thing that you would challenge us to do?
Uh, promote, promote and get behind the arts in the community. Promote it. We need it. I'm really proud of what we've accomplished so far. We've gotten the city to pony up additional funds for cultural arts grants significantly.
Hmm.
We're managing that now. I'm really proud of the public art turtle trail that we continue to do. By the way, we have got an unveiling May 22nd, 10 o'clock, Waterfront Park.
Yes. I was over there this morning, by
Okay,
the
good,
way.
good.
Can't wait.
And I'm very proud of the scholarships that we've given away. We gave Jay, you were with me last night. We gave 3 scholarships of $5,000 each away to 3 deserving, students graduating
Amazing.
from Matanzas. So much fun to do that. I love to give
Absolutely.
money away.
Well, you are definitely a promoter, and I appreciate that challenge. And I do think that, like many things, when we get behind something that we're passionate about, we can truly make a difference and make things happen. And you are doing that. So, Nancy, I want to thank you so very much for joining me today on Business Minds Coffee Chat. I
Thank you,
really
Jay.
appreciate you sharing a bit more about you. Certainly, there's things that I learn. I learn from you all the time. Every time I'm together with you, I learn something different, and I learn about leadership as
Oh,
well
well, thank you,
through
Jay.
you.
That's
So
very complimentary.
I appreciate it, and I'm grateful. So thank you for being here
Thank
today.
you very much.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. And for all of you, I want to thank you so very much for tuning into Business Minds Coffee Chat. We will be back next Saturday morning at 8:30. And until then, my friends, keep learning, keep growing. Please help promote the arts. And we will see you on the next episode of Business Minds Coffee Chat. Take care, all.
Bye.